Welcome to Horns Up, and today we're featuring one of our lockdown discoveries of sorts. It's a band called Elephant Tree, and their album Habits has been one of my major musical highlights in these crazy times. What say, Peter? Has it been one of yours?
Yeah, I distinctly remember like getting the promo copy, I think it was around the time the lockdown started here in India. So I'd say the last week of March. And, that was still when I could like go out a bit, I guess. So I'd like go for a short walk or pick up groceries, listening to the album and stuff. And one thing, and I think that's how I described the album to you, was trippy, right? It's like it's one of those albums you can just kind of immerse yourself and get lost in. And I quite enjoyed Habits.
Same here, same here. So, as is the natural course on Horns Up, if we really like something, we'll try and reach out to the artist, and we managed to get some time with Elephant Tree's Jack Townsley. And if you think this introduction as such is a bit rushed or devoid of information, that's unlike our previous episodes, well, that's because we asked Jack to kind of introduce the band to all of you as well. But I have to ask a favor from everyone listening, that's besides the two of us. Pause this episode right now, listen to Habits in its entirety, and then unpause. Have you done it? Have you unpaused? Well, then, here's the conversation.
Hi, Jack. How are you doing today?
Yeah, good guys. Thank you for having me on, Matt. I think this is my first interview with anyone from India, so this is a first for me. So thank you.
So, you know what? It's been a couple of months since the release of your album Habits, and both Animesh and I have been listening to it quite a bit, but you've received a lot of acclaim across media for it. So, how does it feel looking back?
Um, Very lucky, I guess. It's we've always thought that we've been very lucky as a band, and as I guess across the board, if you have good friends already, you're lucky. If you have good friends that you can make music with, that's even better. And then to be able to record an album, it's such an undertaking, time-wise, just on that alone. So it's to have it pay off in this way, it was really humbling, and we managed to chart in the UK as well. So we were at number 13 in the rock charts, which is just unheard of not unheard of, sorry, but for us, it wasn't something that we expected. So we definitely had a fair few beers that night to celebrate over Zoom or Skype or whatever it was, because we were still in lockdown then. So I guess just humbled and ready to make another now.
Excellent.
Awesome.
Okay, so before we talk more about Habits, I'd actually like to, just kind of have some fun.
Yeah, go for it.
Quite a few of our listeners would be discovering Elephant Tree with this podcast. So, if I'd ask you to do an elevator pitch for Elephant Tree in a couple of sentences, what would you say?
If I was to pitch to you as a businessman, okay, I'd say we might be able to pull a crowd. We do okay. We'll be happy with shit beer, and you might make some money back because we won't.
That's a good one.
That's a good one. That's a good one. Okay. All right. So listeners, that's what to expect from Elephant Tree eventually. But I'd wholeheartedly recommend checking out Habits, because my first reaction after listening to Habits was one of absolute sheer delight. I absolutely loved it.
Too kind.
Then, of course, I Googled you guys, which led me to my second surprise of the day, because I discovered that Elephant Tree is a band that's based out of England. I was I was sure you guys were from the sandy, uninhabited deserts of America or something of that sort. So the question is, are you surprised by my surprise by the fact that you guys are based out of London?
I thought you were going to say, like, when you Googled us, you were surprised that I was completely bald, like, or something like that. I guess, I don't know, man. Like, the UK has a good history of psychedelic and blues and rock music generally. We take a big part of that, obviously, from the psych scene from America, the stoner scene. Those the old school bands that were obviously influenced by it, like Caius and Soundgarden and Tool and lots of that stuff. But I mean, one of our big influences is British folk music. Old school British folk, old psych. Obviously everyone's it goes without saying we like Pink Floyd, Black Sabbath, Led Zepp, but we're also we've got a guy from Ireland who's heavily into Irish folk music. I'm into I'm into a lot of Northern English folk music at the moment. It's kind of a big bubbling pot, and when we first started, we had a sitar player, Riley McIntyre, who's now our producer. So it's a hard one because I guess we like to meld as much as we can because it makes sense to do something a bit different nowadays. It's easy to play the same stuff that everyone else plays, and there's nothing against that. But I guess we've always wanted to try and do something different because there's lots of bands that can play heavier and who are more technically proficient. But I think a melody lasts a lot longer than a note for note perfect solo, if that makes sense.
Yeah. It does. Yeah, it does.
I know you touched a bit upon this, but give us a quick snapshot of the band's history. I mean, the usual, of course, how you guys got together, but how did you get up to 2020 where we are right now?
I'm smiling because the story of how we all met is stupid. Me and Sam knew each other, but we went for some beers in London, and we were pretty drunk, and we ended up trying to buy some weed off this guy that we've met, and it turned out to be just a long string of rosemary, like a cooking herb. And this guy turns around, this random stranger turns around and goes, "You're a fucking idiot." And I went, "Hey, you're Peter Holland from Trippy Wicked." And that's how we met our bassist. And then he took our number and we said, "Oh, come for the jam, man." We had 10 pints or whatever. And he's like, "Okay, yeah, sure." Anyway, he doesn't remember any of this. He doesn't remember a single thing of this night. He just gets a text from a random number saying, "The jam room's booked, come along." And he was like, "I do not know who this is," but he came along anyway. And that's how Elephantry started.
Okay. So wait 1 second. I must ask you at this point then, because I'm expecting as entertaining a story as the story that led to your formation, how did you guys come up with the name Elephantry?
Oh, that was Sam started a Facebook group before we could stop him. No, that's all it is. No, and then the second part of that question was how we got to 2020. Sorry.
Yeah.
So I guess after we recorded our first EP, we wanted to, really get a bit more established, I guess. And the only way to do that, really, I think, as a band, is to say yes to a lot of things. It doesn't always work, but we had a whole year of saying yes to most gigs, and we did hundreds and hundreds of gigs. And that really paid off, and that gave us a good foot in the door for the scene in the UK. And then we were lucky enough to get into a very good studio in North London with Riley McIntyre producing for our self-titled album, and that came with sort of near unlimited studio time. So it really allowed us to obsess over the record and the writing. So we jam a few ideas, in the room, in the jam room or the practice room, and then we'd go into the studio, but we never went into the studio with any final ideas. It was always to play for. So I guess that's how that album came about. And with the new one taking us up to 2020, so there's 4 years of touring. We did a lot of tours with Stone Jesus and went around Europe. I can just hear my daughter crying now. And then we sort of went into the studio again with Riley into the church, and again it was that obsessive take on making a record. We probably spent 3 years in the studio almost, I guess, just going at it and changing everything, and then having a call at 3 a.m. when you wake up thinking, "Oh crap, that was a better idea." It became an obsession, definitely. So that for the last 2 years was just obsessive writing, which led up to the Habits release.
Okay, all right. So now let's start talking a bit at length about Habits itself. This, of course, is your second album, and personally, well, I believe that the second album is the one on which a band aims to cement itself and really realize its sound. Would you say that's the case with Elephant Tree as well?
Yeah, I think so. It's for the other guys in the band, or some of them, they probably weren't. I worry a lot. Basically, is the precursor to the answer. Is I worry. I'm very anxious about stuff like this. So it was a big. Yeah, like you said, the second album is important. It's very important. So we didn't want to fuck it up. And I think it was a big statement in terms of what we wanted to do, and I think it's a statement for what we want to do in the future as well. Not to say that the next album will be the same, but it's definitely what we want it to sound like right now, if that makes sense. With the writing, like I said, it was a lot more in depth. There was a lot more tearing things apart. I think for me, I've always had a large ego, and I'm very impatient. So this album was a massive learning point for me in life. I think not just musically, in a way of a lot of the songs are very personal. So you have to remove yourself from that when you're working with a group and you bring something in that, say, one of the tracks is about my bird. It's about my daughter, but you're taking it with a band. It's a band. It's not a solo project. So you have to, you're giving that else. You're putting these ideas into a group, and then it's getting dismantled and put back together again, and then we're saying that doesn't make sense, but this does. And you're about 2 months in or 3 months in, and you're like, oh, this is finished, and then it's 2 years later, and you're still trying to figure it out. So I guess it was the process of writing this album was a big learning curve for me, I think personally, and I think it was for the rest of the guys too. I think when you're trying to create something, you should always go in with the notion that you will change your mind, and I think a lot of good comes out of being able to talk to people and build on that.
So, you did mention earlier about 3 years in the studio. Why do you think that happened? Why did it take so long?
Because we wanted to make it as good as we possibly could, and we had the opportunity to be able to do that. So I think, why not? And again, it goes back to being lucky. I don't think that spending longer on something always makes it better, but I think if there's a group of you, it normally does make it better. If it's a group thing, as with anything in life, if you spend more time thinking it through, generally it's going to be better. And with the studio itself is fantastic technically. So you have all this equipment that you can utilize. There's a big Neve desk that used to be in Abbey Road, which is what Pink Floyd, the actual desk itself was the same desk that Pink Floyd used to record Wish You Were Here and all that, that stuff. So it was from Abbey Road Studio 2. So that was the same desk that, the Beatles used, that we got to use. So, things like that.
All that's at Church Studio, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Church Studio is run by Paul Epworth. So there's that aspect to it. Technically, you want to try everything. And life also gets in the way. I had a kid.
Of course.
We're all working day jobs as well, for the most part. Yeah, life and we really did obsess over this album. That's the thing. We got to the point where it was almost silly. It was spending 3 days straight locked in the studio, coming out for a week, then spending another 3 days straight, and straight, not sleeping, just 3 days. So yeah, I guess it was obsession. That's it. I guess that's the short answer. Why were we in the studio so long? Obsession. That's it.
Okay, so of course, then here's the follow-up. When did you realize that it was the time to stop working on it and finally release it? When and how did you know that these songs are finished and ready? Or was it a matter of, okay, deadline's here, we have to do this now?
No, it was never. It was always on our own terms.
Lovely. Okay.
And it always will be. That's something that I think try and maintain. every band should be on their own terms. And the answer to your question is that we had a great producer, and I think that's a vital. Having a great producer makes so much difference to your music. If you have someone that you work with like Riley McIntyre, where it just clicks. He's a friend and a producer, and obviously used to be in the band as a player. That's his job as a producer. That's his job to go, listen, guys, that's done. And you have to respect that, like a referee almost. Or an umpire. It's that falls down to having a good producer and your sense as a band to finding a good producer. If you had a bad producer, they'd say, let's keep on going.
That's actually a perfect segue into my next question, which was going to be about Riley's role in all of this itself. I mean, I guess the fact that he was a former member, it just makes it easier to communicate the subjective aesthetics of sound as well as ideas and how you want a piece of music to be, right?
Yes, definitely. I think, spot on. And the thing with Riley is, he likes metal, but he's not into it that much. He works with bands like, he's just done Kanye West. He's just worked with Royal Blood. He's just done Madonna. He's done Thurston Moore. He's worked with, every pop star, through the church. He's worked on the new Mumford and Sons album, so he's a pop guy. Not that his musical tastes aren't pop or they aren't just metal. He likes everything. But having someone outside of your own scope or knowledge, or having someone that's great at other things, really helps bring a record alive. Because we wanted that pop influence. We didn't want to just do a record which sounds like a guy's jamming in a room for 3 hours, which isn't a bad thing. I like records like that, but that's not what we wanted. We wanted it to have some pop mentality in the term, melody, shortish songs. We wanted it to be accessible. So that's why he's great. That's why he's a fantastic part of the whole album. He is a fifth member of the band as well at all times, but he was also producing. And even if we disagree with what he was saying, which we did, there was disagreements, but because we were confident in his knowledge, we could respect that. And we would have an argument or a discussion, which he would win a lot of the time, because he's good at his job.
Yeah, I must say he's done a terrific job, and it's not just him, but the entire band and this entire sound itself is extremely, extremely, extremely cool. I love how the album simply washes over you. It kind of drowns you in its sonic layers. That being said, I didn't find it to be gloomy. I found it rather to be hopeful, especially the second half of the whole album. What was your intention with Habits? Is there any message or feeling that you wish to leave your listeners with?
Yeah, I think there's a sort of loose concept around the album with the name Habits. Obviously, habits are things you pick up, or cycles of life, or bad and good. You can have good habits, you can have bad habits. But the songs themselves, when we went into making this album, we wanted it to reflect day-to-day things. I love albums about witches and wizards and bongs, and I love Tolkien as well. But we didn't want that in this album because everyone does that. So we wanted songs that were about real life. So Sales is about losing someone through disease slowly, but the message is that the things you remember about that person are more positive than the negative. So that's things like that. So Faceless is about working a 9 till 5 job and being bored. Fluorescent Black Hole, things like that. Bird is about my daughter.
That one's one of my favorites of the record, I must say.
So that's what we were going for. We wanted real songs about real things in life. But again, we wanted to sound hopeful. Some of the lyrics are pretty heavy, but we've always been sort of a positive bunch. So, it's, I think I'm glad you said what you did, because that's what we were hoping for, but thematically, that's what it was about. It was about real life, good and bad, and not, trying to stay grounded, I guess, If that helps your answer, I'm not sure. I hope so.
No, I mean, I now understand why I can resonate with sales based on what
Yeah,
you said. But for me, really, like what struck me was the closing track, right? I mean, sonically, it's kind of different. Broken Nails. It
yeah,
starts out with, that stripped down production. It slowly picks up the pace, and then it just ends on that, like hopeful kind of note
yeah.
of sorts, if I may say. Was that like an intentional way for the album to end?
Yes, and it came about again through that obsession, which I was talking about. That was a song which we built in the studio, um, slowly. And Broken Nails is a song that it's meant, yeah. I guess the sort of last sort of crazy section, the synth solo of like, blah, that high pitched thing was kind of like our last hurrah for the album. It's like the charge of the Light Brigade almost. It's ride or die at the end of it. It's a hell of a bit that is one of probably the proudest I've been making a song is listening to that end 2 minutes of the album, because that was really, I don't know how to explain. It's really special to me, that part, and I'm glad you like that. And it's quite a dark song. It's about the initial first sort of few minutes it's about being standing in the shadows of your sort of forefathers and not being able to do as well as they have, and it's sort of that feeling of guilt or anxiousness that like comes with the world as it is at the moment, whether that be economical, straight up political. There's a lot of big political decisions going down in the UK which I disagree with, and it's sort of that, that sort of, I don't know what we're doing at the moment, and there's nothing we can do. Global warming is that, and that sort of thing, that sort of plays into it as well. So it's Broken Nails. The idea is you're trying to claw on the back of shoulders that are greater than you. That was where it came from there. We broke our nails on your shoulders, that sort of thing. But the end bit is meant to sound hopeful, sorry. The last bit, after the weird breakdown.
All right, it's weird you said that because the time at which Habits released somehow just made the album resonate a lot more with me, at least. Maybe it's due to the fact that that we are all sort of going through this lockdown, pandemic, crazy shit time as
Yeah.
such in humanity, or maybe it's all the other things that you spoke about as well. But yeah, it's a very timely release.
Yeah, I think I wouldn't say it was a lucky thing, because it's none of, the subjects aren't lucky. They're not good. They're not good
Yeah.
that you can resonate. But I think building up to this, we were making this album up to very close up to the point of up to December, and December 2019, and that's sort of when you sort of notice shit really starting to unravel. So I think it probably did have an effect on the writing, and it's been a crazy few years for everyone before this virus. Politically, our country is an embarrassment at the moment. But
Hey, not anymore. You've got America to thank for that.
fuck all that.
Hey.
It's so yeah, no. I think it just comes down to the fact that maybe the songs are about real life, and they're about losing loved ones, that they're about having children, they're about not enjoying your job. Wasted's about being down and out because you've got fucked too much, and stuff like that. So maybe that's why, people seem to enjoy it in that sense, feel that they can, I think any mark of a good record is hopefully you'll be able to apply it to different points of your own life, regardless of what the artist intended, So, I listen to songs and maybe, famous examples like, Queen, the band never told you what Bohemian Rhapsody is about, but I'll listen to it and I'll think I can apply it to a certain thing in my head, so I think that's a good thing,
Yeah.
True. So, we've spoken at length about habits. So we come to the part which is kind of always becomes the toughest question for our guests. Is we'd like to play a song from the album for our listeners. Which one should we play and why that song?
One song. Shit. I'll go with. I think I'll go with Bird.
Okay.
Just because I think it's a high point for me, just me personally, and I think it represents the album well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hush now, bird, you cannot fly. Sparrows, save your only flight. Winter's here and you are cold. No other bird would be so bold. No other bird would be so bold. Fly! Say
So, Jack, as we discussed before, Habits released in April 2020, right in the smack of the coronavirus pandemic and the lockdown. Did the reality of the situation have any effect on the album release? Did it bother you guys or the band personally?
No, I think there was some talk. A lot of bands have postponed albums and stuff, and but I think it was just like, fuck it, we're going to release this. Like, we've worked too hard, and we're not. People want to hear it. Let's make it. There was never a point when we weren't going to put it out, because it's just music, innit?
Okay, all right. And since we're chatting, I have to ask you this. What's with all that white space on the album cover?
So, I mean, I guess it was just a design, wasn't it? We have a fantastic design artist, Yaba, working with us on the layout. And
Okay.
I guess the whites there, the concept was, the idea was that maybe you can make it's like the lyrics themselves, you can find your own meaning for it, can't you?
Mm.
It's to be interpreted as you wish, I guess.
It's like a canvas.
Yeah,
We color
sure.
it in with whatever we want to.
That's a much better idea.
Feel free to use that.
Yeah, man. It's just, I guess, going back to the COVID thing. How have you guys found it over there? Are you guys? Is anyone gigging again? Is there? It's kind of you feel quite isolated at the moment because you're just concentrating on your own country. So I don't really know what's going on elsewhere, really. Apart from what we hear in the main news, but you can't really trust that.
Well, nobody is gigging out there publicly, but I think we've all had a fair share of streams and virtual concerts and stuff like that. But by like I personally, I got fed up of all of that within the first week or so itself. Yeah.
Well, the sort of live streamed gigs.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're trying to. Yeah, same. It's I don't see much point in trying to replicate something that you're not going to manage. I'd rather do something different.
Exactly. Or unless you can like own it in some fashion. Like,
yeah, well,
what Devin Townsend did was fantastic with his live sets. He actually made it an experience, which was great. It wasn't just let me film myself in a studio playing, and I'll cut that with everybody else doing the same over
what we're thinking of doing is going into a studio and doing like sessions versions of tracks, like that BBC sessions.
Yeah.
And trying to sort of reinvent some tracks, and then
that would be fun.
But doing it live, so we'd film it live, and you'd hear us just making these tracks. So you'd be just watching us in the studio doing it, and then you could just buy the tracks after.
Make it as authentic as you guys can.
Well, that's it. And then we'd have like a live Q&A going as well. So we'd be just having a beer, playing some new tunes, trying to make them into new tracks.
Yeah,
you can comment and stuff whilst we're doing it over the course of a day, and then you can just own the tracks. Something like that.
That actually sounds good.
I mean, it'd be interesting to watch us all start arguing about where we think the tracks should go.
or maybe like come up with one of those challenges that you have so many hours to make a track and come up with it.
Yeah, how badly can Elephantry fuck up their tracks? Yeah.
Hey, come on. The Rolling Stones apparently had to make an entire album within a weekend or something because they were locked into a house by their manager, or there's some story like that or something.
I can believe that. They had a portable recording studio, didn't they? They're in a lorry.
Yeah.
Just used to travel with that everywhere they go, so it's kind of cheating, I think.
So, you mentioned including the sitar in one of your earlier lineups. What other instruments would you like to incorporate into your music or just jam along with?
I think more synths. Like, you always sort of, whenever I hear a band say that, you're like, oh shit, really? But we have a new member the last 2 years called John, and he's the synth player on the album and extra guitars. And I think really having that extra layer of synths just really did something for us when we were writing that I'd love to just try and explore into. But if I was going to go something else that we haven't done, maybe nice to do some like more acoustic tracks with more of a string section. You know, more string sections, more like the full chorus was great fun to do. We had some guys in from Ireland playing
Mm.
fiddles on that one live, and it sounded amazing. So it'd be cool to write some more acoustic songs with another string quartet or something. It'd be nice to do some more stuff with sitar as well, because that was cool. You know, Riley, that was Riley again. He went out to India for like 2 years to study that. I can't remember where he was, but yeah, that was good fun having stuff like that. Things, you know, I think definitely just a string section and some more synths. Maybe 5 synth players.
Okay. All right. So Jack, here's the final question then. What's next for Elephant Tree? Can you give us any sort of an idea?
Yeah, well, because the tours are all off now till next year, we're going to make a new album.
Fantastic.
So we're going to
Awesome.
try and record that before October, because I have another child on the way. So that's when the child is due. So we need to get that. Yeah, do a new album. I think is definitely on the cards. We've all chatted about it and all agree we want to do it. So it makes sense, right? Because there's no gigs,
Yeah, true.
and we need to make some money.
Are you guys writing music during all of this time that you guys have at home?
Yeah, there's some ideas floating around. We're back. We're back in the jam room this day after tomorrow. So there's a lot of stuff that we need to catch up on. You know, there's 12 weeks missed. But we were in the studio 2 weeks ago recording a Sabbath cover.
Ooh.
So we've got
Juicy.
a cover of Paranoid we just put down, which is getting released this year through Magnetic Eye Records, doing like a Black Sabbath covers album. So
Oh, nice.
we've got a track on that, and we also recorded a live sessions version of Circles for a live album that's getting released in November as well.
Fantastic.
So there's a
there's
lot
a lot.
going on. And then next year, I mean, this year we're meant to be on tour with Stone Jesus right now, and then we were meant to be going on tour with Elder in November. So that's off. So we're going to have to do that again next year.
Yeah, that Elder album that came out this year, even that one was an excellent listen.
Yeah, it's cool, man. I was listening. I mean, I've just got this in the post. This is the sessions one, and
Ooh.
the track "An
Nice.
Illusionary Motion." An Illusionary Motion is one of my favorite tracks at the moment. I've got this, the new Lowrider album.
I've been meaning to
Oh.
check that one out.
Oh man, there's a track called "Ode to Ganymede," which is probably one of my favorite tracks in the last 5 years. Actually, it's so good. Check it out as soon as it's finished on here. Go listen to "Ode to Ganymede." Yeah, it's really cool.
Shall do.
And
Shall
what else
do.
have we got? We've got Lord Buffalo here. I've not heard these
Okay.
guys. So check them
No,
out.
I've not heard of them either. All right. Okay, then I think we've kept you for long, and
Yeah, we've kept
yeah,
you
we are
long
kind
enough.
of.
Yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys having me on, man. And
Yeah.
thanks for the support. And
Yeah.
I hope to see
No.
you guys at a gig.
Yeah.
Sooner
So
rather than
what?
later. It's good with this new record. We're meeting a lot of new people around the world. So that's. I don't think you can understate how good that is at the moment. For everyone.
Yeah,
True.
deservedly so, though. It's a fabulous record.
Thank you, man. It's it's a group effort, and we're very fortunate to be able to be in a position to do that. So, hopefully we'll be able to make this new one this year, and we'll be chatting again.
Yep,
Awesome.
sure. Look
Looking
forward
forward
to
to
it.
that.
Well,
Right.
cheers, guys, man, and take care of yourselves and stay healthy.
Yeah.
All right.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Wow, that was an excellent chat. I must reiterate, Habits has been one of my major musical highlights during the lockdown, and the news of a new album this year is really exciting, no? Isn't it?
Oh yeah, I'm quite kicked to hear that, and it's not often that you hear within a span of a year or year and a half music from bands today. So hey, the lockdown around the world has had some upside, right?
Yep, definitely. And speaking of that, we're almost at the end of June. That's half of the year gone by.
Tell me about it. Tell me about it.
Yeah. So to commemorate that occasion, we are going to be doing a music on our mind on the next episode where we'll both try and list out 5 albums each that we thought have been highlights so far. Peter, you want to help me set some rules?
Well, it has to be released in the last 6 months for sure.
That's the yeah, but of course, but help me with this one. Can we feature albums or bands that we've already spoken to on Horns Up? I mean, it'll help make our lives easier a bit, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. I'm pretty sure if not in the top 5, in the top 10 would be Elephant Tree Habits. So yeah, for sure.
So wait, so we are allowed to feature it? I was thinking let's not feature them because then we have space for essentially bombarding each other with new music.
Sure, I mean, it'll be quite interesting just to see which artists. I mean, I know at least one artist that we really enjoyed the album that we haven't spoken to as yet. But yeah, there are quite a few like that. So let's that'll be interesting to do. Let's talk about artists that we've really enjoyed but haven't had on the podcast.
Yeah,
And then
cool.
maybe as like to pile on
Honorable
top of that,
mentions.
honorable mention. Of course,
Yeah, definitely. We'll do that. Yep. Okay, secondly, do you want to do rankings or alphabetical?
I think it's too early to do rankings, to be honest, because I mean, yeah, the last 3 months I've been listening to a lot of music, but yeah, it'll be a little unfair at this point, and especially some albums that came out in the last month or so. But yeah, let's do alphabetic for now. Let's save the ranking for later because that's where the end of the year, that's where the real fun is, right?
Hmm. Okay, cool. ठीक है, I'll live with that for now. So there you have it. Something to look forward to, and that's homework for all of you listening as well, besides the two of us, if there are anybody, if you choose to do it, of course. What have been your musical highlights from the first half of 2020? You can ponder, you can ruminate, you can overthink, and you can see if your picks match ours. Till then, you know the drill. It's hornsupod.com, hornsupod on Twitter, Asmoani on Twitter,
And I'm Trend Crusher.
on Twitter too. So
So,
till the next time, horns up.
hands up, guys.